Okay, so welcome to episode 2 of the relaunch of the only British-based San Francisco Giants podcast, the Splash Hits podcast. I'm Charlie Baldwin, and today I'm joined by creator and head admin of @SFGiants_UK on Twitter and the Splash Hits podcast, David Gibson, the lead Giants writer for batflipsandnerds.com, Ash Day, and our very special guest today from the Bay Area. He is co-admin of SF Giants Fans on Twitter and co-admin of Giants Chapter on Facebook, Brooks Knudsen. So today we thought it would be interesting to speak to somebody from the Bay Area to contrast their experiences of Giants fandom with our own. And also we will talk a little bit about spring training and last season as well as this season. So my first question to you, Brooks, is how did you get into baseball and the San Francisco Giants? And then we'll go to Dave and then Ash for a follow-up question on that as well.
Yeah, that's first of all, hey everybody, thanks for having me on, Charlie and guys. And this is just I've just been having so much fun during this off season, talking Giants. Now we're into spring training. I don't know. I've been more focused on this Giants spring training squad than I have in the past 6 years or so. I mean, this is such an intriguing group of guys. So I'm very, very excited. Just looking at box scores because a lot of times the game's not televised, and it's like, hey, a home run. Was it a home run? Was it a cheapie? Who knows? But it's fun to look at this progress for the Giants. So to answer the first question, my baseball and Giants story is pretty interesting, I'd say. I was born on a Tuesday, and my first game was Friday night at Candlestick when I was 72 hours old. Luckily, I'm born in July, but still, that's like freezing cold temperatures at Candlestick Park in the park's history, right? So luckily, I was in a luxury box because my dad, a big Giants fan, he and some of his friends who were, I think they were trainers for Stanford athletics, so they were able to work something out to get him into a luxury box and bring his diehard Giants fan, 72-hour-old baby there to watch Dave Dravecky and the Giants. I think that's who pitched that day. So by default, I was thrown into the Giants lore of fandom just immediately, and then from there, just went to a bunch of games all the time with my dad, who is a diehard fan. I mean, he went to Game 3 of the 1989 World Series when the earthquake happened. Like he was on the field after the game got kind of postponed, and was walking around with his home video camera looking, there's Willie Mays hanging out in the dugout with, because he was friends with, the Giants organization for all that time, right? But you just, there's Kruko, all that stuff, right? So that was pretty funny. My dad, big Giants fan, so he got me into it, and we go to games all the time. School night, falling asleep on the ride home, just say, hey, sorry, honey, it was a long game. My mom's like, it's 11 p.m. Come on. So I went to a bunch of games when I was a kid, and then, not to go too far into this, because I could talk forever about my Giants history, but really, really started following every single game pretty much after high school, because I was doing way too many things in high school to really focus on the Giants all the time. So once I had more free time, I think around the 2006 season, not your best season to really dive in head first, but there was some promise with Matt Cain coming up, and this guy named Tim Lincecum was a prospect that might make his debut soon, and sure enough, he came up the next year. So Bonds last year, all that fun stuff was when I was just every single game, either watching it, listening to it, checking box scores, all that stuff. So ever since then, I've just been Giants diehard, as you guys are. So like I said, I could go on, but I don't want to go crazy deep into the Giants fandom discussion. But that's where I'm at.
Very interesting start there. Dave, have you got a follow-up question?
Well, he actually just answered it. So I was going to ask, what was the point when you're like, I'm now die hard and this is my life now. This is, and that was it, 2006.
Yeah, to that, and 2006.
Yeah, thanks for answering my question.
I knew you were going to ask that, Dave. I just knew it. And I'll just say
Guitarist
2006.
In sync.
In sync, exactly. I went to probably, I remember writing it down. I didn't go to a ton of games. It's not like I lived in San Francisco and, being a 19-year-old, I didn't have money to go to baseball games all the time, especially when it's for free on TV. But I went to about 10 games that year, and the Giants went 1-9 in the games I went to. And the one win I saw was on the road in Oakland. So I never even got to see them win a game at then. I think it was officially AT&T Park then. It was like the first year of it or something, after SBC and Pac Bell and all that stuff. But it was pretty miserable, man. I was like, man, can I catch a break? I mean, I was seeing a game where they had a 4-run lead in the ninth and they blew it. Like Benitez gave up a grand slam. I'm like, that was my win. I had that win right there. So it was, that would have made another fan question and go, well, the A's are starting to win. Maybe I'll go over there. No. I stuck with my Giants through and through. And sure enough, feel like I was rewarded for that decision, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting you say about my first 3 games that I saw. So I was 0-3 to start watching, actually being there and watching. It's like, am I really going to come back again? Yes, I am.
You take it personally at that point. You're like, you guys...
Yeah. It's like, come on. It's a 3-game series. You can win one.
And then the game you don't go to, they get like a 9-run lead at some point. And you're going, I would have loved to be there for that.
Excellent. Yeah. Awesome. Good.
Ash, have you got a follow-up question?
Yeah. Brooks, do you remember your first game at the new ballpark when it opened? Do you remember going to the new park from Candlestick for the first time?
I can kind of answer that question. I only remember my first game there because I have a picture that I took with my dad there, and it has like one of those animated frames that comes with it, and it says inaugural season 2000, right? And they gave us these signs, and Charlie's gonna love this one. They gave us signs that said that we held for the photo, and it said, "Who let the dogs out?" That was like a huge song at that point in 2000, and I look at that photo and I laugh because it was so silly. Like, hey, we're at a baseball game. Let's do a Baja Men shout out. Like, I don't know. It was funny to me. And it said Giants versus Reds. And I think I remember, it was like a June game. I'm gonna have to look up what happened in that game, but clearly at that point I didn't even watch a pitch. I was like, oh, cool. There's the Coke slide, and there's the man, I forget what they had, and I was too old for something like Build-A-Bear or whatever, but I was like, oh, that's cool. And then like, oh, there's the trolley car there. Okay, I'll hang out on that. So I was probably more focused on looking at all the stuff at the ballpark than even watching the game, because I was still, I think I was like 12 or 13, so it was like, yeah, this is fun, but look at this place. Giants are losing by 15. That's cool. No worries. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
On another chat/podcast, Brooks, you kind of touched on that you're involved in the Ashcon and Bailey Feeling Like a Giant video as well. Yeah. Could you give us a minute or two on like how you end up being involved in that as well?
Yeah, that was just to go a little further back, right around the 2011 beginning of that season, I started, just kind of filming some fan interviews. I was trying to put together a little video, kind of like a little mini documentary just on Giants fans. Hope to release it one day. Kind of got lost in the shuffle for, halted on distribution and some other things. So more on that at 11. But for what I started doing there was getting a different interviews set up, and one of the guys I interviewed was Ashcon, who at the time everyone knew was famous for the "Don't Stop Believing" video that went viral. So he was nice enough to meet me up before, I think it was before a game. We filmed it over near the ballpark, and then from then me and Ash just ended up being, sorry, not this Ash, I call him Ash, Ashcon. Me and Ashcon used to be we ended up kind of sparking up a good friendship there, and then from there they started getting a lot of creative stuff going with at the time Comcast Sportsnet is what they called it. It was the local station, and we were able to work on a project called The Authentic Fan, in which Ashkan would be the host, and he would do a bunch of different things that Giants fans would do, like ride the ferry to the game. What's that like? Well, Amy G joined us on that one. We went to the San Jose Giants game and interviewed the top prospect at the time, Gary Brown. I feel like we cursed him a little bit because that was like, the last we really heard from him at that point. So anyways, we did a bunch of Giants fan stuff on that show. And then one of the episodes we did as they were getting ready to film their music video, Feeling Like a Giant, at the ballpark. I think it was Giants were on the road, so full access to the park, and it was what made it even cooler was it was nighttime, so it was just kind of get chills being on the field under these bright lights going, this is, I pictured like 41,000 people there. I'm like, I think my heart would beat out of my chest at that point. I'm like, So I had fun standing in the box with where Bonds would stand, and just kind of did my little Bonds waggle there. But the reason we were there was we were filming behind the scenes. We weren't actually filming the music video, but we were doing all the behind the scenes coverage, and ended up making an episode out of that. And just I don't know. It always makes me smile just thinking about it because it was just such a fun time. The Giants were reigning World Series champions, and we're on the field under the bright lights. And it was also weird because like the Coke bottle light was not on, and other scoreboard was not on, so it was just partially felt like we were at a ball game, but also like, no, this doesn't seem right. Something's missing. Where's all the fans? Yeah. So it was kind of a very surreal thing to be a part of, and I was just stoked to just be there and watch them make that video because it's just awesome. So
very good, yeah, and it really did end up taking off as well. Speaking of taking off and going into the popularity of the Giants, like not just in the Bay Area but outside the US and beyond as well. I know we've only been talking closely about the Giants for about a month or so now, and we did have the odd Twitter conversation before that, and you've seen Ash around a little bit and read a bit of his work, and you're obviously meeting Dave for the first time today. So what are your early impressions of the Giants fan base, and have you kind of thought about how big the Giants are globally in the past at all?
Yeah, it's funny when I was doing some research for that fan documentary, if you want to call it, that I was working on 10 years ago even. I was just looking into cool stories about how the 2010 World Series championship was perceived around the globe too, and that's when I was seeing, there's Giants fans in Canada, that's cool. Oh, there's Giants fans in Australia. There's and so definitely UK was top on that list of. I would look up YouTube videos of reaction of when the Giants, when Brian Wilson struck out Nelson Cruz, and I would see this giant UK bar of guys just losing their mind, and I'm going, man, they are reacting the same way we were, and this is just cool. It means a lot to us, it means a lot to them, and you kind of forget that it's not just the Giants, San Francisco. No, it's global, and so that I already had somewhat of an idea that there's a strong following overseas, across the pond, as Charlie would say, and I just in this last couple months of working on or just having fun with Giants Chatter and our other groups. Definitely, one thing I'm noticing is for the UK fans especially, knowledge. That's the one thing that stands out. They're not coming out here going, what's with his batting average? Why is he hitting this? These guys and girls are more analytical thinking. They consider all facets of the game. They just seem to be a lot more locked in than one would imagine. It has nothing to do with how close you are to the stadium. If you follow the team where you live, then that's perfect. And that's kind of what I've noticed. Early on, like you were saying. So,
Ash, have you got a follow-up question?
Yeah, it's. I agree very much with what Brooks was saying. I think, the advances in technology in the last 10, 20 years has made the world like such a smaller place. So even though we live 8 hours away from where the games are happening, like we can follow closer than ever before. I think my question for you, Brooks, is do you have anything similar? Do you have any interests in our country? Do you follow Premier League? Do you follow any sports over here? Have you ever thought about it?
I could answer that honestly. I've never been into. I've never played what we call soccer over here. I played it when I was like 5, and then I moved on to other sports, and then I never actually played a lot of sports after Little League, anyways. Right? I just kind of I was more into playing music, playing guitar, playing going to concerts, all that fun stuff. So this is answering your question, I promise. But I've said I stopped playing sports at a certain age and just focused on not being committed to have to do practice and games on Friday nights and all these things. So that to me is probably why I don't follow football and soccer, that combo there, as much. I kind of just stay, obviously baseball number 1, and then basketball and football are probably number 2 combined, and then 3 is hockey. And I haven't really branched out further than that, and I would like to eventually kind of get to know the other sports that I've been missing out on all this time. I mean, I know friends that are big rugby fans, and they have like a certain channel on their TV that they pay for to watch the the matches and everything. And I'm like, oh, that's like, I'd like to. I don't even know how I get into that, and just kind of start watching and figure it out from there. So I'm interested for sure. I just haven't really had any experience there.
If you need any help, we'll point you in the right direction.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, Dave, have you got a question to add on to this?
Well, I don't really follow English sports anyway, so it doesn't matter if you don't. But it'd be easier time difference wise, because we're up early we're into the night and into the morning to watch San Francisco games. But I think yours, you'd obviously be in the morning, you'd be able to watch evening games when you wake up. So that'd be pretty cool with your breakfast.
Yeah, that's
I think
true.
You're quite on your own as a fan over here. So you're in the middle of the night, you're watching. So everything you're taking in. You've got Kuip and Krug, and you got a Miller telling you all the stats, what's going on, and so you're just sat taking in. You haven't got people like yapping, chatting, taking. So I think that's why we might be a bit more locked in that way, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, Brooks, when the Yankees and Red Sox came over to London, there was a lot of furor from their fan base about having a game in the UK and losing home games, etc. Do you think the Giants fan base would be the same way if they came to London one day? And would you be willing to come and watch a game in London as well if the Giants were playing?
Oh, absolutely. Are you kidding me? I want to go to London even if there wasn't a ball game. I just want to, that's high on my list. I haven't left the continent, really. I mean, I've furthest I've gone besides Hawaii is Mexico. So I've been just, in one part of the world only, so I'd love to go and just experience just going to a pub and just having some drinks with you guys and just, being a tourist and taking millions of photos of everything, So that I can already answer, yes, I'd love to. And then it would be insane not to plan it around, the Giants are going to be there? Hell yeah, I'm going to that. I'm definitely going to go to that. So definitely on that question. And then I don't know. I mean, I think any fans that are worried about missing out on 3 home games that's silly to me. Just I would say, hey, the Giants are going to go play in. I don't even know what stadium they'd play, which one that the Red Sox and Yankees played at, but I'm assuming it's easier to hit a home run there than it is at Oracle. So I would say the fans are crazy not to think that Giants can go over there and pop out like 8 homers in a series there. So why not? So it's like going to a. It's like, it's like going to Cincinnati. When the Giants go to Cincinnati or something like that, they're just going to mash, right? So it'd be kind of like the same thing.
Okay, very good. And as we were on hiatus for quite well last season, we thought we'd go back to last season just to say we were watching, and like we did have some points to make about it. So my question for you all is, what's one part of the game, and this can be in general, like as in a part of a team, like the bullpen rotation or offense, or in terms of a specific player, do the Giants need to improve on from last season going into 2021? And I'll go to Dave first, and then Ash, and then Brooks, please, on this one.
Yeah, I read a few things. But one that stood out, which I think they've already they're addressing it now, is the starting pitching, and it's looking better already. You know, Gaussman's re-signed. Beatty, he should be back after Tommy John, I believe. He will be. I think he should be back.
They're targeting June, I think.
Yeah. You got Quater Wood. They brought in Alex Wood, which, well, even though he was a Dodger, I mean, and Desclafani, he's pitching tonight. So I think we need to see improvement from starting pitching, but I think that's definitely going to go a long way to getting better.
Interesting. Ash, are you going to stay on the same wavelength as Dave there on the starting pitching side, or are you going to move to a different part of the team for where they need to improve for 2021?
I will stay in the similar realm of the similar area. I was going to say they need to improve on the relief pitching, the bullpen. I think we all had our nightmares last season with some of the ninth inning meltdowns we saw. And it looks like the team have addressed that this year. So, yeah, I'm optimistic for the relief pitching this year with the additions that the Giants have made. But, it's definitely the area to improve for this year.
Yeah, definitely. There is definitely room for improvement there, as you said there, Ash. There was that nightmare series against the A's where, unfortunately, Trevor got imploded, and earlier on there were miscues from likes, and even before that there were miscues from the likes of Rico Garcia, Randy Peralta, almost seemingly everyone at times, bar one or two. So, Brooks, are you going to continue the pitching theme, or are you going to move on to a different part of the team here?
And this is just basically what we would like. If you could just rephrase it one more time, what we'd like to see improvement on, is that what it is? So where you'd like to see the team improve on, so it could be a part of the team or a player who you think should have done better last season, but you think will do better this season. Ooh, I'd love to just say I want Kapler to push more of the right buttons. He kind of got a year of that 60-game sample of kind of feeling out the bullpen and getting to know some of these guys. A lot of these guys came back. Obviously, they have a bunch of new arms and stuff. But for the guys he does know, I'd like for him to use a little bit more gut feeling when he can, and not just say, "Well, I'm gonna go back to Gott here and just I believe in him, so I want to show him that I believe in him." It's like, maybe you should probably just say, I need to give this guy a couple days off mentally to and as we saw last year, Giants needed every win to be able to get into the postseason. They just missed it. So would have helped if he had better intuition on how to manage the bullpen. And he had big shoes to fill of how, Bochy was the bullpen artist. He had maybe one hiccup in his entire Giants career with the bullpen. Other than that, he was a master of how to use guys, when to use them 2 days in a row, when to give them 2 days in a row off. I mean, just beautiful work there by Boch. And then Kapler left a lot to be desired of how he handled the bullpen last year. So after everything that you guys are saying, I'm thinking I want better managing and better coaching for this year. We give him kind of a little bit of a break last year because of the circumstances, new team, new city, new everything. So I want Kapler to show me a little bit more this year.
Yeah, I think we've all fitted quite well into what we're all saying there. As I know, Dave started with a starting rotation, which I think had the least quality starts and least innings pitched as a rotation of any rotation in baseball. And I'm going to follow on from what Ash and Brooks were saying by also adding in that I still rate a lot of that bullpen highly. I think it was primarily down to underperformance to begin with. Like, there were bright signs at the end when they had a 2.62 ERA during the last 3 weeks of the season. Caleb Berrigar was unscored upon, well, almost unscored upon. He only allowed one run in his last 14 and third innings. And Tyler Rogers, I think this is something that surprises everyone, didn't actually allow a run in his last 8 outings. And then you've added on Jake McGee, who had a 2.66 ERA with the Dodgers after that. An 11-1 strikeout ratio, which is absolutely amazingly incredible. Like, you literally only expect Cy Young contenders to be that good. And then there's Matt Whistler as well with his 1.07 ERA in Minnesota. And just to go down the stats side on that, Fangraphs have actually predicted the bullpen to be worth 2.3 WAR this coming year. It was actually worth 0.6 last year. So that's already 3 wins onto what we had, and we all know how much of a difference 3 wins would have made last year.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. That's Fangraphs projecting. Some of these guys that us four would probably not even hope that is getting 40, 50, 60 appearances out of the bullpen this year. Maybe I don't want to pick any names here, but there's clearly some better upside options this year. So if Fangraphs isn't even thinking about a Kervin Castro or a Dedniel Nunez or Camilo Duvall, if they don't even have them in their projected WAR, can you imagine, right? Those guys offer a lot of upside. So definitely.
No, very good. And I'm kind of glad you went down the prospect way, Brooks, because my next question is partly to do with that. So perfect segue in there. So who is one player that you've been focused on in spring training, and what do you think about their performance so far? I know Ash has kind of disappeared due to technical difficulties, but we are hoping he will be back any minute. So I'll go to you first, Dave, and then I'll go to Brooks.
For me personally, it's Heliot Ramos, just because he seems like the closest one to potentially be coming up this year. I know Luciano is cool and young and looks big, but Ramos, he's batting over 300 at the moment, but it's only a few games. But we haven't been able to see too much. I think there's eight at bats, but I don't think we've been able to see all of them. But from what I've seen, he looks good. Maybe if someone underperforms in the outfield or maybe some injuries, we might get to see him. Held back a bit by COVID last year, just because of the minors. Leagues weren't running. But yeah, I'll hopefully see a lot more from him this spring as it gets going, and hopefully he'll make it up.
Yeah, very much. He is definitely a key prospect going forward. He could play centre field. He could play outfield. He's got all the tools to be someone who can contribute every day, even if he doesn't hit his ceiling, which is very important, as unfortunately not every prospect does hit their ceiling. So in terms of players we've been following this spring training and how they've done so far, we'll go to Brooks and then Ash. So Brooks, are you going to stay down the prospect path, or are you going to go to a veteran on this?
It's like so hard to pick like one guy, right? And it changes every day, right? And so, I'm really interested in seeing this guy and that guy. I don't know. The first, I'm just going with the first name that popped in my head. I'm really, really interested in seeing Aaron Sanchez. I just want to see him out there. Hopefully it's a televised game. I want to see what his stuff looks like. I want to see, how the Giants are planning on using him. First couple weeks of spring, that question is never answered. But toward the end of spring, I'd like to see, is he somebody that's getting 5-something innings? Is he building up his arm? And we all know that he's coming back from injury. There's incentive for him to start games and earn extra money this year. So he's going to try to avoid the bullpen at all costs, just like we all would. Hey, bullpen, you get less money. Starting, you get maybe another $3 million or whatever it is. So he's going to do whatever he can to get into that rotation, which makes it tougher for a guy like Logan Webb and to immediately be there. And obviously, Aaron Sanchez just staying healthy would be most ideal for for his future too, right? He's kind of rebuilding his value, and he's I think 28, 29 almost. So he's got a chance to lock in a 4-year deal somewhere, whether it's with the Giants or somebody else, if he comes out lights out this year and performs. So that's why I just want to see this guy pitch. There's a lot going on there. And you can say that about a lot of the rotation pieces. They're all trying to ball out this year and then get paid in the next offseason. So that's what's cool about the Giants. They have all these guys with contract year mindset, like pitch well, get paid. Let's go, baby. So.
Absolutely, and it's been proven. Like Kevin Gausman, he came in on an $8-9 million deal, I think it was, turned that into a qualifying offer. Drew Smiley pretty much doubled his money when he went off to Atlanta, and as some of the pitchers who have come in have said, like, it is a place to go. San Francisco now is a place to go if you are kind of somebody who's looking to rebuild value, get back into it. And actually, on the MLB.com today, Mike Petrello on there actually wrote up an article about why the Giants are a sleeper team for next year, and one of the reasons he put down was this starting pitching. So, Ash, is there someone you've been following during spring training, and how do you think they've done so far? Ash we seem to be having technical difficulties with Ash at the moment. Just while Ash is rejigging things, Brooks, do you and I'll go to you as well on this, Dave. Who do you guys think will ultimately end up as the number 2 pitcher outside of
it's the guys I'm mostly focusing.
I think Charlie, you said who is the number 2 after Gausman?
Who do you think, coming out of spring training, will end up as the number 2 after Gausman? Yeah, and I'll go to you first, Brooks, and then you, Dave.
Yeah, I think I think the common answer for people has been Cueto in that spot. I don't necessarily agree for the fact that he'll be going up against other number 2 pitchers. I know Cueto's got the mind to be a number 2. I don't know if he has enough of the stuff, although he looked good in his 2 innings the other day, which was awesome. 2 innings, 4 Ks. I love to see that. But I think hitters are still working on timing in spring training, so I try to take that with a grain of salt. But going back to who could be a solid number 2 for the Giants, I kind of like Alex Wood as my number 2. I don't really care about putting him 3 or 4 to break up any. It's only about the first opening series, and the rest of it is what it is, right? I mean, he still will break up righties, the rest of the way. So if it's righty, lefty, righty, 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 lefty, it doesn't matter. It's wherever you put him. He's still going to be breaking up 4 righties. So I know I had to go off on that one for the moment, but it only matters for your opening series of 162, and that's it. So I think Alex Wood has the biggest upside to be pre-injury Alex Wood. I think he gives you number 2 type of output, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because he is a pitchability pitcher as well. He's not got a pitching action that really strains himself physically as well. It's very, very repeatable, and it's arguable that he's been really unlucky with injuries. So, Dave, would you go with Alex Wood being the likely number 2 out of spring training, or would you go to somebody else?
Well, I certainly can't argue with anything that I've just said, yeah. But if you had just said that off the cuff, I probably would have just said Cueto, just because it's Johnny Cueto. But maybe DeSclafani. Yeah. Now that you've said that, he's won me over.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, Johnny probably will, for his veteran status and coming off of he had a pretty solid year last year. He made every start. I think that's solid. So Cueto might be the natural number 2 out of camp kind of thing, but I think eventually you might see a little shuffling there because I like Gausman, Wood, and then maybe a Cueto in a 1-2-3 type of series. Like, I would love that against maybe the Dodgers. DeSclafani, I think, is a solid pitcher, but he, to me, seems like a number 4 pitcher, right? So putting him number 2 means probably got some issues in the rotation. And then, there's so many options. Obviously, there's a few guys that you could put in there.
Do you think you could ever see a 6-man rotation?
Yeah, they were kind of, discussing that being an open possibility. I think it's pointless to, if everyone stays healthy in a 6-man rotation, you're eliminating 2 or 3 starts of Gossman for the whole year. So I just think that's pointless. I mean, that's Gossman's one guy, right? So, anyways, I think with all the off days and how many guys they're going to be using out of the bullpen, I don't think you need a 6-man rotation. I don't think you need it. So.
I think the counter argument to Brooks's point is that Cap and Farhan have both said like the rotation will be very conservatively used like early on in terms of pitch count and innings count, just due to the short season last season and the amount of pitchers on other teams that got injured in comparison to the Giants. So I think there is a case to say like if everybody again is only going 3 or 4 innings, then that could be a situation where they say, all right, Logan Webb pitched on spring training. He's got his command back. He's finding his arms out a lot earlier on than he was. His changeup's there. We'll give him a shot as a 6-man for 2 weeks while we build everybody up and get everybody to a point where they can go hopefully 5 or 6 innings a lot more often than they did. But just to go back to the original question at hand, the guy I've been following at spring training, and I think he excites all of us whenever we hear the name. And I know, Brooks, you might be getting sick of hearing me talk about him now, because we've talked about him numerous times in different chats and podcasts, is Marco Luciano, just because the upside, the excitement that he brings. We've never really had a prospect with that much ceiling. Not even Buster Posey was thought of as being basically a perennial MVP who could hit 35, 40 home runs, who can make contact, who can spray the ball across the field, who can play solid defense. And I know some fans are a bit down on Luciano's offense this spring training, but we need to remember he's only hit low A pitching. That's as high as he's been in the system. Okay, you've got the alternate camp last year, but that's limited because you get to know those pitchers. So it's like having a repetitive training camp or practice. So after a while, you'll get used to them, get used to their habits. And he's gone from facing that sort of standard to in-form mid-season dust in May, first time out. You can't really say that's on Luciano. He's gone out there for a 99 miles per hour. The curveball that he buckled on got the pitching ninja treatment on Twitter because it was absolutely ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And he is essentially number 3 pitcher at worst on most teams in the league, so you can't really put too much stock into that. And for Luciano, it's going to be more about how he improves going through the minor leagues this coming season, I think, rather than like how he does in this spring training. This is primarily for him to get some data in the back of his mind to say, Dustin May, right? He pitches that way. He pitches this and this count. He's got pitchers that do this. And in 2 years' time, when he's hopefully facing him in early April, he goes, "Oh, that was this at bat where he threw me a curveball a while ago. I wonder if he's going to do that here." And he might foul it off. He might hit it for a home run. But yeah, he'll have a lot better looking at bats than he does so far. And I saw today, Buster Olney of ESPN was comparing him on KMBR body-wise to Xander Bogaerts. So if you guys want to just quickly chime in on what you think about that comparison. Brooks first and Dave.
Yeah, sure. Anybody that has any thoughts and questions about Luciano striking out in spring training, please at me. Please talk to me. I'd like to hear what you're thinking, and make sure you bring up Buster Posey strikeouts, and make sure you bring up Tommy Listella's strikeouts while you're at it, because you got to be all in or all out on this stuff. I mean, these guys are working on timing right now. You and I, we go to the batting cage after not going to the batting cage, and they're throwing 60 mile per hour baseballs. You and I would be off timing. We need to get our timing down, right? These guys, it's not only has it been so much time off, but like a guy like Luciano hasn't really played a lot of intense feeling games in years, right? Because of the shutdown last year. So coming out there and facing, like you said, like a Dustin May who's just his ball dances. He throws the ball. It starts here, it breaks here. All these degrees all over the place. I mean, he's a talented guy, and so is Luciano. But that's a matchup right there. Someone's got to win it, and right now Luciano is still working on his timing. He's striking out a ton. So I just saying, it's spring training. Let the guy keep going up there and getting his at bat, striking out. It's all for good. And then I think our hype on him has everything to do with how young he is, what he's done to this point in the lower minors, his body type, all the tools, how he's progressed. I mean, that's that to me is something that, like Charlie was saying, we haven't had anything like that in a long time. Like a guy like Buster Posey coming up was way different. He was a polished college player. We knew he was going to come up and immediately be in the mix in the next year or so. I mean, Luciano, he's been playing a few years now as a 17, 18, 19, so he'll probably be up next year, I think, because they have to add him to the 40-man roster at the end of 22 season anyways. So might as well get him up at September of 2022.
Yeah, Dave, are you happy with the Xander Bogaerts comparison, or would you like to see maybe him compared to somebody a little bit better?
Yeah, I'm not really into the comparison thing. I don't. Bogart's Red Sox. There's not enough time in the day to watch all the Giants games without watching everyone else's as well. But Twitter's a strange place sometimes, and when you see people giving up on a player, his first game against that sort of pitching on TV, in an evening game.
That's a good point. Yeah. On TV too. How many times has Luciano batted with cameras on?
He knows that everyone's watching back home because it's an evening game. And he didn't look fazed by it at all. So I'd take more from that. And that he looked cool and composed and ready to go. You couldn't see that he was frustrated or anything. Like you say, he's working it out. He's seeing these new pitches. He's getting this new timing. There's plenty of time for him to catch up with Major League pitching.
And to add to Dave real quick, the good point about him being on TV and all that stuff, I love that. But also, his at-bats did get better in that one game. We're talking about the game against the Dodgers where he struck out 3 times, right? So his second at-bat, he got a little bit better, still struck out. His third at-bat, he was fouling off some tough pitches there and extending the at-bat further and further. But I like that he went down swinging. He's not going up there going, well, hopefully that's a ball so I can walk. He's up there going, I'm going to try to hit this ball out of the entire county right now, just one swing. And he missed it, and that's okay with me. Totally okay with me.
Yeah, I think that's
definitely rather see him swinging in spring training.
Yep.
Especially at his age. Mm-hmm. Enjoy it.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that's impressed me, about the younger prospects in general, even on the pitching side, like Kervin Castro, Camilo Doval, and Dave, you referenced to at Ramos earlier, they've shown no fearlessness at this level because they've been hitting pitching that's sometimes against the Dodgers that's way above what they've been hitting, or on the hitting side they've been facing pitchers that they're not used to. So I think that's a good omen going forward because they seem to have the makeup, they seem to, and everything else will come on top of that, as we've been saying. So moving on. So we got some injury list updates yesterday. So Brandon Belt has resumed baseball activities after rehabbing from off-season heel surgery, and he was down with a non-related COVID virus for a while as well. Austin Slater is swinging the bat, but still dealing with a mild sore hamstring, was the quote. And Evan Longoria currently has plantar fasciitis issues, although he did DH yesterday, going 1 for 2 with a 3-run double as a DH. So, Dave, I'll come to you first with this question. If Brandon Belt isn't ready to go on opening day, who would you like to see starting on first base?
Who would I like to see on first? Well, is it Vosler?
Vosler, yeah.
Yes, there's a new name to get used to the probably him. Although I'd like to get Flores' bat in the lineup. It's the defense isn't as good as Brandon Belt's, but yeah, I'd like to get Flores' bat in there. No, we had the DH for a little bit, and it was good being able to use him. So yeah, maybe I'd probably go with Flores at this moment. We'll see how it goes. But hopefully Brandon Belt will be back. So I'm a fan of Belt. That's my side on the Belt Wars. I love that.
Yeah, same here.
Okay, so Brooks, the player I'm going to come to you with is, if Austin Slater isn't available on opening day, who do you believe would take his spot coming out of spring training?
Well, honestly, how could you not say Vossler? I mean, he is just, they're putting him in left field now, as he did yesterday. I mean, they're just making sure that he's ready to be used where they need him. So he could cover a Belt injury, a Slater injury, both. I think someone would probably immediately go to a true outfielder like a Lamont Wade Jr. Sure, that could work too. But something about Vossler that is showing right now in spring is that he can hit lefties too, man. So he's driving the ball, triples, doubles against lefties right now. So that already checks off a box that you're missing from Slater right there. Just having that option, and we all know, they are high on this guy Vossler. They jumped at the opportunity to grab him early in the offseason. So I think to cover a Slater injury, and Slater is part-time first baseman as well. He has played when they needed him to, but it's like Dave was saying, I'm a big Flores guy. I'd rather have Flores get in the lineup where he can every day if possible. For a second, I don't care. Just put him in there. That guy is a real slugger. So, yeah. So I would probably go with Vossler though. I think he's making his case right now. Early in spring, but making his case.
Okay. Welcome back to Ash. Fingers crossed we've got the technical difficulties sorted out now. So, Ash, the two topics we covered while you were dealing with those issues were, is there a player that you've been following in spring training, and how well have they performed so far?
Yeah, sorry for my technical gremlins. I hope you can hear me. The players I've been following are Wade Jr. and Jalen Davis. They're probably the two guys I'm going to follow closely because I'm very interested to see if either of them can win a spot in the outfield. I'm thinking it's unlikely they'll be starting, but I would like to see if they could be that fourth outfielder off the bench. So early signs. I mean, Davis hasn't been featuring very much. He's been dealing with a knock, but Wade Jr. seems pretty bright so far, pretty positive. But yeah, I'm going to be following those guys pretty closely this spring because I love the prospects. I love Bishop. I love Ramos, but I think realistically, we're not going to see either of those out of spring training. I think it's going to be either, if Slater's healthy, that would be cool, but it's going to be Wade Jr. or Jalen Davis. Maybe he'll finally get another crack at the team.
Yeah, I like those picks.
There's kind of been some disagreement amongst analysts about whether Wade can play centre field. What's your view on that? If you've been able to see enough of him, either in game cast reports or game reports or on TV so far, Ash?
Yeah, it's been limited so far because we've only had the 2 televised games at the time of recording. Hopefully we get to see him a bit tonight. We're recording on a Sunday night, the 3rd televised game. So yeah, I will be keeping an eye on him closely. But yeah, I like what I've been hearing so far, but he's one to watch.
Okay. And the other question was, there was an injury update yesterday where Evan Longoria, Austin Slater, and Brandon Belt are currently all recovering from injuries. So what I wanted to ask you was, if Evan Longoria isn't ready to go on opening day, who would you like to see manning third base?
I know we've been loving Vossler. I know he's made a hot start to the spring, so he's an early candidate. I think La Stella. I'd like to see La Stella at third base as well. But yeah, I think Vossler's the feel-good story of spring so far. So if he can keep up that hot bat, I really like his chances. And it'd be fun to have kind of a guy like that make the team.
Yeah. We picked him for every position. I think. We've at least mentioned him at each position. We're obviously all high on him. Yeah.
I'll just say, if Vossler is 0 for 9 in spring training, maybe like no strikeouts or whatever, like maybe he's hitting the ball hard, but they're all being caught. I don't think that really changes our thinking too much. I think we have already been excited about this guy for the sole reason that Farhan's excited about him. If Farhan's excited about him, all of a sudden you start hearing this name in your head: Yastrzemski. Okay, Vossleremski, baby, let's go. I don't care if he's 0 for 9 or 9 for 9. I feel like the chance for him to come in, whether it's opening day or later in April or something, we all want to see this guy play, and it doesn't hurt that he's a left-handed hitting, right-handed throwing third baseman, second base, so he could be able to be platooned. Longoria mashes lefties, doesn't do much against righties at all, so we're all hoping that if it's not LaStella, it's Vossler as the platoon piece at third. So then things get tricky. If Longoria misses time, then you're going, well, LaStella, maybe he'll hit against those righties, and Vossler will hit against the lefties, because Vossler's raking lefties right now. He's showing that he can handle lefties, just like Yastrzemski, a left-handed batter. He has a 156 WRC plus against lefties in his last 150 plate appearances. So that's like, okay, he can pass the test. Have him start every day. Maybe Vossler's like that too. We'll see.
Yeah, so far he's been absolutely killing it in spring training. He's hitting 462 with 1308 OPS so far, so I think we're all in agreement there that he's shown more than enough so far to plug in somewhere. So I'd agree with him at third base. In terms of Brooks, what you were saying about Austin Slater, do you not think that would leave us a little bit short-handed in the outfield? Like if you went from Slater to giving his spot to Vossler?
Not really. I'll just say this. Left field, you could clearly go Dickerson and Ruff, platoon there. You could give them every at-bat in left field, those two guys. Sure. Then you could have, and this is if Slater misses time, then you can have Dubon in center, and when he's not playing center, Yastrzemski could play there. I mean, he's had his issues in center, but I don't think we all care that much about it. He can go in there and make up for it with the bat and whatever. He's an okay center fielder. He's really solid in right field, but not going to worry about having to try to pick up another guy for that week or whatever. You could just shuffle him in there if Dubon needs to play short for whatever reason. And then right field is simply enough, Yaz most of the time in right, but there's a few guys that they can move around over there. I mean, it's totally fine. I don't think you need an extra outfielder just to take over a Slater injury. So.
Yeah, I think the key thing here, as Farhan's been aiming to do, is we've built up a ton of options now. Like 2 or 3 years ago, you would have been saying, well, if a second baseman or if Longoria misses a game, like who's going to go there? And now it's like we're all like, we could put Vossler there, or another way I think we could go is they're kind of stuck on how to get Dubon and LaStella both in the lineup at the same time at times, I think. So one way you could go on opening days, you could have LaStella at third and Dubon at second and do it that way. Because I know it's an unpopular sentiment among some Giants fans, but would you guys say Dubon's potentially a trade piece this season? I'll go to you, Ash, then Dave, then Brooks on that.
That's interesting. I hadn't even contemplated the idea of Dubon as a trade piece.
Sorry, not Dubon. Sorry, I meant
Solano?
Yes, sorry, Solano.
Oh, baby.
Yes.
Sorry.
My apologies.
I was working on what I was going to say about a Dubon trade. I was like, what? No.
I was starting to kick the tires on Dubon trade.
It's all right, Charlie. Hey, it's spring training, baby. Come on. No, yeah, go for it, Ash. Sorry.
You know, it's when you're trying to thought this goes off like, but yeah, a potential Solano trade. What are thoughts there, guys? So we'll go to Ash, then Dave, then Brooks.
Yeah, I think I think it's interesting. If you look at Solano's career, he's only really like started to put it together in the last couple of years. So a lot of people say, well, what do you get for this, early 30s kind of bit part player who's kind of turned it around recently? But he is coming off the back of a silver slugger, albeit in the shortened 2020 season. So I don't know. I think if the Giants can net a semi-decent prospect for him, I think that's something they will explore. And maybe it will depend on how the team's doing. If we're into the summer and well out of it, then he's like a prime piece to throw at the deadline to a contender, especially if his bat is still hot, which it has been basically since he got to San Francisco. He's been one of the best bats we've had since he turned up. So I would not be surprised if Farhan and the team are looking at potentially dealing him, which would be a shame because Donnie Barrels is one of my favorite nicknames on the team. I'll be sad to see that go.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, Dave, would you agree with that sentiment?
Yeah, definitely. I think since Farhan's come in, worked his magic, I think most of us are trusting Farhan now and what he can do, and the whole money ball, get low, sell high. You can see it, and like you say, it was a standout season. So he's at his highest point. So yeah, I can see it happening, but we'll see what Farhan says. I'll take my cues from him.
Okay, Brooks, what are your thoughts?
It's as simple as they don't need to trade Solano, right? So that's why the Giants have leverage in any deal there. It's not like, okay, we all know you're trying to get rid of Solano. And I was like, no, Solano's their second baseman for all we're concerned. We have enough guys to mix and match. Solano, don't laugh, but he can play third and he can play short, but, he can play those positions, they say. What it really comes down to, I think, for me, is Farhan is considering that option of keeping him around all year. He's also considering the option of trading him. He's probably got some conversations going. He's got the text thread going. Hey, baby, Solano just hit a homer. What do you think? Is that going to look good on your team this year? So what it comes down to, I think they're waiting for the official decision on the DH this year or not. I still think it's kind of being discussed. Charlie, is that right? They're still somewhat.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
the
beat writers are saying it's still an ongoing discussion. They could come back at any time and say, yeah, we're going to put it in.
So right there, right? If you traded Solano today and then next week they said, all right, the DH is here to stay forever. Now the Giants are going, God dang it. Not only did we trade a guy who could be a DH, but we traded a guy who we would want in our lineup every day at second, and then like a Flores or Darren Ruff, and these guys could be our DH all the time. La Stella can play every day, whether it's Vossler at third that day and Flores and Solano and Vossler and Longoria. It's like all these guys that are trying to mix and match. So the DH would really make things easier for the Giants. So I think they're still, they're ready to go if they need to trade Solano, if they have a guy that they have, maybe another Vossler type of player that might be available in a trade scenario. And if they need to keep Solano, sure. No problem keeping a 330 bat on your team. And he's not making that much money, obviously. The Giants said $675 back in our pocket. So Solano is not making very much money, which also means you don't have to force him into the lineup. He's not, you kind of have to do that a little bit with like a Longoria because, hey, we're paying him. It's that whole mantra. So yeah, Solano could stay, could go. Could stay, could go.
All right, nice insights, guys. I think we've given everybody a good overview of a few of the battles that are going on in spring training and which players to focus on. So next, I want to go to you, Asher. What have you got up on Bat Flips and Nerds at the moment, and what do you have coming up in terms of articles, please?
Yes, so my most recent pieces have been exploring who might be taking first base in Brandon Belt's absence until he can come back and join us. So I looked at Flores and La Stella, maybe even Posey part-time there at first base. I recently had a look at the rotation, a little preview about what our rotation might look like, focusing kind of on the battle at the back end of the rotation, who's going to be that fifth starter. It's going to be fascinating watching over the next couple of weeks how Sanchez gets on, as Brooks said, how Webb's going to do. Could someone like Yamaguchi maybe contend for that last spot? And yeah, my next piece coming for Batflips, when I can finally get time to write it, will be looking at that outfield battle that I was talking about earlier with Wade Jr., with maybe even the prospects like Ramos, Jalen Davis, and so on. So yeah, I'm going to be looking into that a little bit, and yeah, when I can find some time to do some writing, you can expect to see that on batflipsandnerds.com in the future.
Brilliant. We look forward to it. Brooks, you've been on a few podcasts recently. Is there any in particular you want to point out, or any appearances you have coming up? And do you want to say a bit about what's going on in Giants Chatter on Facebook at the moment as well?
Yeah, sure. So recently was on the Say Hey podcast with Say Hey Doug, Say Hey Rob, and Steven Risotto from RizzoCast also joined us, and we broke down a potential platoon option. So part one of the episode is talking about a platoon against left-handed pitching. I led that conversation, and part two, I believe, will be on this Wednesday coming up. And that will be the second half where Steven breaks down the potential platoon lineup against right-handed pitching. So give those a listen if you can. Say Hey is a fun podcast. It's just guys hanging out talking Giants. We constantly are throwing out jokes and impressions of managers and players. Trying to do my Kapler when I can, trying to sound like him, when I'm not working out. And then other than that, I don't have any other appearances coming up at the moment. It's something I hope to keep doing during the spring training, so I'm just really enjoying talking ball, Giants, and I look forward to chatting with you guys too and checking out your stuff.
Very good. So thanks to you all. Thanks to you, Dave, Ash, and Brooks for joining me today. And just to say, the next Splash Hits pod will be back in 2 weeks' time. So we'll be recording on Sunday, the 21st of March. And that will be very interesting because that will be our prediction show. So please feel free to tweet us at Splash Hits Pod on Twitter. So that's capital SPLASH, capital HITS, capital POD, with any predictions you have from the 2021 season, and we'll read out the best of what we get. So it can either be who's going to be the Giants MVP, Giants Cy Young, most Giants walks. It can be who's going to have the best Giants beard, if you want to go really out there, get really random. And we look forward to hearing from you, and thanks for listening. And until next time, go Giants!
Thanks for having me on. Cheers, boys.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, guys.